Hi everyone, I'm Karen at Close to My Heart, and today we are talking tags. Christmas and holiday tags to be exact. Before we get started though, I just want to give you a quick little reminder to turn on your bell notifications, like and subscribe here on YouTube to our videos so you won't miss any as we go forward. Let's take a look at some of the tags we'll be creating today. Here you see lots of tags, a couple of examples. This is an example of one tied onto a gift. This is another fun little layered tag. I'm going to move those two out of the way because we're actually going to be creating the 5 that you see here. And you may be noticing that we've created these kind of in non-traditional Christmas colors, but isn't that a pretty combination? These colors are papaya, mink, rosemary, and white daisy, which I think are a really fun take on kind of lightened colors of Christmas. You could make these tags as we create them today with any colors you want or any products you might already have on hand. We're going to be using our buildable tags, thin cuts today. Thin cuts are the word we use here at Close to My Heart for die cuts, and this fun Winter Wonderland card making stamp set. So I think as we create today, you'll get some great ideas, and maybe the wheels in your brain will be turning on ways you could use some of these ideas and adapt them to your supplies. Now let's move these out of the way and get started creating. Okay, before we start making these tags, let's talk a little bit about the products I am using in case there are any here that you think you might like to have. I wanted to show you our buildable tags thin cuts. You can tell it comes with lots of dies. This creates a pocket, which we're going to do. This could create a little shaker window or a window on the front of your tag. Then we have kind of a squared tag, a rounded top tag, and then the same 2 little tags in a smaller size. And then these 2 are tag reinforcers that go around the opening in the tag that you might tie your tag on with. So we thought of everything when it comes to this die set, and you're going to see these in use in these tags that we're making today. Then I'm also using the Winter Wonderland stamp set and thin cuts. And one of the things I love about this stamp set is it could definitely go Christmassy, but could also just go winter. And you can use any kind of Christmassy or wintry stamp set that you might have on hand that would work for these tags. This stamp set actually comes with its own set of thin cuts as well, which I've already pre-cut. All of the pieces that we're going to be using today, I've already run through my die cutting machine and cut so that you don't have to sit and watch me do that. You get to watch the fun part of the stamping and creating. And then I'll also be using 3 stamp pads, rosemary, papaya, and black. And I'm only using 1 embellishment, these little tiny bitty sparkles. They're just kind of look like little baby diamonds. And they're just a fun little extra bit of bling that we'll add to our project today. So let's bring in one of the tags and begin creating that tag. Let's start with this fun tag here. This one we've chosen to run horizontally instead of vertically, and that's a great idea to think of your tags that way, not just always the same direction, because you're going to see this rounded tag used a couple more times as we create vertically. So I just added a little bit of white ribbon to that tag, and most of us probably have that on hand. And I'm just going to bring in the pieces that we've used here. We've got a tag cut out of rosemary. Isn't that a beautiful dusty grayish green? Just such a trendy, beautiful color in home decor right now. Then I've got a strip of peach and papaya cardstocks, and I've die cut those cute little trees that we're going to stamp in rosemary. All of our stamp sets come with this great piece of foam that is awesome to put underneath when you're stamping. Oh, and I should probably also mention that in addition to cardstock, all of the pieces that you see that are pattern paper, this one's just a very subtle plaid. I'm going to bring it over where you can see it a little closer. You can kind of see that really nice subtle tone-on-tone plaid grid pattern on this, which is a nice way to add a little visual interest to this tag without taking away from the main event, which is our stamping. So let's do that first. We'll bring in our rosemary pad and our stamp set that we're using. I'll turn that over right here where we can get to everything, and I think I'll use a 3x3 block. As you can see, our stamps are acrylic, and you just peel them from their carrier sheet, add them to a block, and you're good to go. And then you just put them away once you clean them. And I'm just seasoning my stamp. You always want to do that before you get started, because when you get a brand new stamp set, it's kind of got a shiny finish. You want to take that off so that it absorbs the ink really well, and just rubbing it against your hand or your arm or your palm or something like that will take that finish right off. So we're going to ink these cute little trees in rosemary and stamp them on our die cut. And because the block is see-through and the stamp is see-through, we can easily see that it's evenly inked and where we're placing it on that die. And we'll pull that off, and you can see how beautifully that's stamped. It almost looks like it is printed on there. Then I think we'll take our cardstock that we have here. As you can see, we have a papaya and a peach, and we're going to tear those to create this cute little background here. So when I tear, I like to pull toward myself. Our cardstock has a white core, which is really fun when you do tearing or sanding, because it creates that nice white edge, which is a great contrast when you're doing something like this. So I'm just tearing toward myself. You can get as organic or as straight as you want. So on this papaya piece, I kind of tore a little bit straight. Let's go a little bit more crazy along this piece of peach, and you can kind of see what I mean. You can just guide it with your fingers as you're tearing and get whatever kind of a look you want. If you want that to look like waves or mountains or any kind of a look, or if you just want it to be more of a subtle straight tear. Now we're going to use a couple of our stamp pads. I'm going to bring in our papaya pad, and we'll just stamp some little dots along the edge of this piece. There's a tiny little stamp in here that'll fit perfectly on our 1x1 block. That's just a bunch of little dots that could be snow or just an accent, anything you want it to be. And I'm just going to stamp that just right here along the bottom edge of this piece that I've torn for a fun, very subtle contrast. We like to call this tone-on-tone stamping here at Close to My Heart, because we're using the same color ink, papaya, as the paper that we're stamping it on. And let's just go ahead and begin assembling our tag. So I've got my adhesive here. I'm going to start with this piece of peach that we cut first. I'm just going to add that just a little bit higher than the bottom of my tag here. Then add this piece of papaya overlapping. And then we'll just take our scissors, turn our tag over, and trim the excess now that we've created our, I guess, kind of a landscape. And you can see we're already almost to finished for this tag. So the next thing I want to do is use these same cute little dots and add a little visual interest around where these trees are going to go. So I want my rosemary pad. We're going to do this tone-on-tone stamping idea all over again here. I'm going to hold that in place. I want to pop this on some 3D foam tape to give it a little bit of dimension. And once you do that, it's hard to stamp really close to what you're doing because that dimension kind of catches your block. So that's why I'm just going to hold these about where I want them to go. And then just stamp that tone-on-tone look where I want it to be. And then we'll go ahead and add the foam tape. But while I'm here, before I do that, I'm going to stamp that Warm Wishes. As you can see on my stamp set here, this Warm Wishes sentiment is a long sentiment. And on our tag, we want to stack it to have it fit nicely in that little pocket that we've created for the sentiment there. So there's a couple of ways that you can get that look. You can cut your stamp, which I have to admit, I am a stamp cutter. I like to call it stamp surgery. But if that makes you a little bit nervous, cutting those two stamps apart so that you can stack them on your block, you can also do what we call selective inking. And I'm going to show you that right now. So let's head back over here and take that sentiment off of our sheet, put it on a block. And you can tell that I've turned it upside down on my work surface, and I'm just going to pick it up with my block. That's always a great way to go about getting what you want, getting your stamp on there straight, because sometimes when you do it with your fingers, it curves just a little bit. But if you turn it upside down like it would be positioned to stamp with it and then pick it up with your block, usually you can get it on there nice and straight. So let's bring our black stamp pad in. And all I'm going to do is carefully ink the word warm. So I can see through my block and just make sure that the ink is getting only on the word warm. And I can look right through there and make sure that's all I've done. And come back over here. I'm just going to put this foam underneath because that makes a nice cushion for stamping. And stamp the word warm. Then we'll clean our stamp, make sure there's no more ink left on there, and make sure it's dry. I'm just wiping it quickly on my jeans. And then we're going to come back and just ink the word wishes on our stamp pad here so that it is just what we want. And we can look and make sure that we haven't gotten any extra ink, which I have gotten just a tiny bit on the edge of the M. So I'm taking my Stamp Chamois cleaning cloth and just wiping that off so that I can easily put this underneath without having any extra ink that I don't want. So I've got warm wishes on my card now, and you can see how beautifully that's stamped with no problem at all. And now all we need to do is add our trees. So I'm grabbing some foam tape. We'll turn those over and add a little bit of foam tape to the back. And you can see how quickly this came together and what a great addition that makes to a gift. It could also be tied onto a candy bar or any kind of thing that you want to hand out for Christmas time. I have a few ideas and examples I'll share with you a little bit later. And just for fun, let's add a few of those little bitty sparkles to our trees. So I'm just going to take my finger and slide that right where I want it to go. I'm just adding a few to the tips of this pine tree to give it a little bit of sparkle, because everything's better with a little bit of bling, right? I think so anyway. That one got away from me. We'll just move over here and grab another one. When you buy a set of these sparkles, you get a couple of sheets of them in your package. And then once I've got this finished, I'm just going to move back over to the close-up camera and show you this tag all finished. And if I move it a little bit, hopefully you can catch the light and the bling on that tree. Isn't that a quick, simple, easy tag that looks much less like a quick, simple tag than it is? So we're going to set that one aside. And I think while I'm here on the close-up camera, I'm just going to slide my things over here because I think you'll enjoy seeing me create the rest of these tags a little closer up. So let's do that. We'll move this tag out of the way and bring in our next tag, which is a really great pocket tag. In that die set that I showed you, in fact, I'll bring it back over here and show you, you can see that this is the pocket. And I'm going to show you how that fits onto a tag and what you can put inside. There are lots of things you can put inside there. You can put a treat in there because who doesn't love a little treat, right? So you could just like slide something in here like these little licorices. You could add a candy cane. You could put a little sprig of eucalyptus. You could put a gift card down in there, a little bit of money. I mean, there are so many ways that you could utilize that little pocket. So let's bring my pieces in for this one. Okay, so we have our base tag, which we've cut out a piece of our mix-in paper. We have our pocket right here. We have a little piece that we're actually going to put behind the pocket so that there's a little peach heart poking through. We've got a piece here for our sentiment. We're going to use that warm wishes again, only this time we'll use it in a horizontal direction. And then also we've got those same cute trees again. Andrew, remember when I showed you the die cut set, I talked to you about those reinforcers? This is the round reinforcer. You can see it in use right there. It is functional and cute. especially when cut in a color that kind of contrasts a little bit with what's happening right there on your project. And then I also stamped one of these because you could use almost any kind of little sentiment or banner there. And then you could turn your tag over and write your to and from. You could stamp it if you have a to and from stamp set. You could put a little note inside here that said who it was to. So you could get really creative with how you use these tags. Let's start with this part right here, the base of the tag. And I'm just gonna move my things over a little bit so that my all-purpose mat is right here. Whenever I'm adding a little bit of adhesive to something that I think I might go over the edges on, like this little reinforcer, I love to just slide my things over and use this all-purpose mat because it's slick and everything just wipes right off of that. And then I don't have to worry about the surface of my work area getting sticky. So I'm just adding that right over the hole that we'll use to tie onto a gift. Now let's move on to our pocket. Before we attach our pocket, we want to add that little peach piece back behind. So I'm just adding a tiny bit of adhesive just right around the heart so that that stickiness is not going to touch what's sliding into my pocket. And I'll put that right behind. Oops, there we go. And that'll hold right into place. Now this pocket was designed to go onto the front of the tag. I think that when you look at it, you think, oh, you just fold that around the edges. But we designed it so that you wouldn't see the edges on the back of the tag, so that if it were put on a gift, because you could also use it on a scrapbook page or a card, then you wouldn't have to worry about the back not looking nicely on a gift. So we're folding it on the score lines. The die makes those score lines for you. And we'll add a little bit of adhesive to the back of each of those little flaps that we created. Fold that little bottom flap up. And we'll add that right here to the front of our tag. And now we have our pocket created. Let's stamp our trees. We'll use our rosemary stamp pad again. We've already seen how simple and easy those are to put right onto our die. And now you'll be able to see that close up. I like to hold my stamp onto the paper for just a second longer than you maybe would think, because then you get a nice bold image. More ink is soaking onto that paper that way. And I think that's a great way to get a nice bold image. We'll just clean that off and put it away and pull in our warm wishes. And we'll use black on that one. Bring in our little piece of papaya cardstock. And this time we're going to use warm wishes, like we said, horizontally instead of stacked. So we'll just use it as the stamp was designed. And we'll dovetail those edges, which is always a cute look and very easy to get. A lot of people tell me that they are not sure how to make that dovetail look nice and even. So I'm going to show you a little trick. This piece is a 1/2 inch. So all you need to know is whatever size your piece is, you want to know where the 1/2 inch mark is, which for us is a 1/4 inch. And I'm just using my Versamat right here to measure that 1/4 inch. I just made a small cut right there at a 1/4 inch, and then I'll go from corner and up, and then you can see what a great little dovetail you get by using that center point. We'll do the same thing on the other end. And we'll add this to our tag with our trees. So let's start with the trees, maybe use a little foam tape on those. It's always fun to get some dimension on whatever it is you're creating. Just adds a little more fun and interest. There are a lot of things that our eyes subconsciously are drawn to, and some of those things are differences in colors. Some of those things are repeated elements in a project. Our eyes love odd numbers. So there are lots of things to remember when you're creating that can help you create things that are going to be a little more appealing. And differences in dimension is another one of those things, which is why it's great to use a little bit of foam tape here and there, not on every single thing, but here and there on a project. And there we go. We've got our tag all finished. You can tell on my sample tag, I've got a few of those little sparkles added to my tree, those bitty sparkles. But you saw me do that on the last tag, so we'll forgo that on this one and move to our next tag. Our next tag that we'll be making uses a different one of the thin cuts. You may have noticed that on those first two tags, we used on both of those the rounded tag. This time we're using the square tag and a layer that fits over it. So if I bring that in, you can see that we've cut the square tag, this square tag here. Then we've taken this rectangle and cut it right out of the center of the green tag so that we have a window, which could be a cute shaker if you wanted to add a shaker. But on ours, we're just going to use it as kind of a frame, a border to our tag. So let's put that right there. And then we cut the tag again without the window out of this cute mink colored plus paper that is going to be the base of our tag. So let's move that out of the way and start creating here. So let's start with our base of our tag. Just add some adhesive to this frame and just line it up right on top because they're the exact same size. I love that subtle difference in the gray paper and the green rosemary paper that has so much gray in it. Then let's add a little adhesive to that reinforcer. Again, I'm just going to move this over where I can put some adhesive on it without getting it on my work surface. Or if you have an adhesive, we sell several that have a finer tip that you can use as well. And isn't that peach cute on there? Now let's bring in our sleigh with the horses. Add that and grab that stamp from our stamp set right here. We'll add that to a block. And let's season that because I don't think we've used it yet. Once you've seasoned it once, you're probably good. But I have to admit, quite often I season a stamp every time I use it just to be sure. And it just makes it pick up ink even more evenly. So I'm just kind of walking my stamp across the pad a little bit to get it nice and inky. And we'll stamp that sleigh and horse on there. Oh, I'm a little off camera, aren't I? There we go. Pull that off and look at that beautiful image. And before we add that, because I want to add that with a little bit of foam tape, let's bring our black stamp back in and stamp our warm wishes right there at the top of our tag. I think a lot of people don't make their own tags because they think they're going to be too much work. But as you can see, we are just going right through these tags and they're all beautiful and would look amazing tied to a gift. So we've got that. Let's add a little bit of foam tape to our image here. And add that to our tag. And we'll just kind of put it at an angle, kind of like they're going up a hill. Let it overlap onto the frame. And then while we're here, let's just do something fun as an accent. I'm going to put away those little dots we used, and we're going to bring in a tiny little it's kind of like a snowflake or a burst, and use our papaya pad and add 3 of those. Remember, we just talked about some odd numbers, and that's going to kind of bring in the feel of that peach paper. So let's add one right there. Maybe one right there and over here. And we've kind of created a nice little visual triangle. And put a little sparkle in the middle of each of those, just for that fun little extra touch. And one last sparkle. And we've got that tag, whoops, There he goes. There we are, right where he belongs. And we've got this tag ready to go. And you can see we just added a little bit of white ribbon so you can tie it right onto your package. And that'd be a beautiful addition. Now we're on tag 4 of 5. We're moving right along. This next tag, we're going to do another pocket tag. And I think it has a couple of fun little details on this tag. You can see that snowflake poking out, and if you added a nice little candy cane or something there, you'd be able to see that. Or if you added a gift card, it might partially cover it up. But depending on what you're putting in your tag, adding a few things to the background of the tag is a great way to give it a little bit of a surprise. So we're going to start with this white tag and add that mink cardstock reinforcer to the top. So we'll move our things over a little bit here. Add some adhesive to the back of this. That on the tag. We'll just kind of get all of our stamping out of the way and then assemble. So we've got our snowflake. We're going to use a black stamp pad for the snowflake. And this fun snowflake on the stamp set. And you can tell by looking at my work surface right here that that snowflake's not perfectly symmetrical, which snowflakes are not perfectly symmetrical, right? So we're going to want to kind of check out which way our snowflake fits on there. There we go. I've got that figured out so that I can easily have it fit nicely into that die. It's worth taking just a little time on something that's not perfectly symmetrical to be able to decide which direction things are going to fit on there. So we've got our little snowflake stamped. Now we'll move on to our sentiment. In this stamp set, there's a cute sentiment that says sending love on a banner, and there's a die that matches it in the stamp set that looks just like that. So we'll add that to our block and stamp that in papaya on our peach cardstock here. I love papaya and peach together. They feel like they're kind of cousins a little bit, and they're a great color combination. So we'll just stamp our sending love with papaya. We could have also done it in black. Let me bring that in. I brought my little sample in black as well. But isn't it pretty in the papaya, that really cute little another shade that's in kind of the orange family? And we're going to make sure we've got our banner facing the right direction to have it fit, which it's not. So see, that's why we got to make sure that we got to check everything every time. And now I've got it the proper direction, and we'll just add that right on top for our sending love sentiment. And that turned out really nicely. And we can do our assembly now. So let's add this cute little piece of peach behind. I love that look of kind of a peekaboo through that heart. So like we said before, since this is a pocket, we want to be really careful that the adhesive is only going to go right behind that piece of cardstock. So whatever we decide to slide into this pocket isn't sticking to it. Also, if you happen to overlap a little bit, this is a great trick. This is called a rub and remove eraser. And if it went a little bit over the edge, this just takes your adhesive right off, which is great. And then you won't have that stickiness to worry about. And then we'll fold right on the score lines here. Do just like we did before to add it to our kit. So let's add our adhesive on those little tabs. That's the only place we want the adhesive. We want to leave that pocket free to be able to slide something down in there. So we're going to add that right here to the front of our tag. See how perfectly that fits, and the back still looks great in case it twists or turns on your package. Okay, we're going to add our sending love, and I'm just going to be careful not to use any adhesive on that end that overlaps onto the pocket there. So I didn't put any adhesive there because that's the part that's kind of overlapping onto our pocket. And then lastly, let's grab this little snowflake, add a little adhesive to that. And back over, we're going to slide that down into the pocket so it's kind of a fun little surprise poking out. And a great little finish detail would be to maybe add one of our sparkles, excuse me, right there to the middle of our snowflake. And then again, just add a little twine or ribbon and it's ready to add to your package, or tuck a glue stick, excuse me, a gift card down inside. You could even tie it to a candy bar with a gift card. There's so many ways you could really dress this up. Now let's create one more tag together, and then I'm going to show you some more tag examples that I think you'll be excited about. Our last tag uses one more of the stamps that are in this stamp set. It uses the snow globe. Isn't that cute? And it already says just for you on there, which is perfect for a gift tag, right? So let's start by stamping that. That's the only thing we're going to stamp on this tag. So we'll pull that off and add it to our block. Season it. And we'll stamp this in papaya. First stamp across the stamp pad and make sure we're looking right through that acrylic block to make sure it looks nice and evenly inked, and it does. So we will add it to our die. And you can see that beautiful image we got there from making sure it was evenly inked and just holding it there for an extra second or two. Let's go ahead and build our tag. This time we're using a more rounded tag from the tag set. So let's start by bringing in the base of the tag, and keep in mind that this is another one of the papers from the mix-in paper packet, and it is a really great mink color with just a very subtle grid pattern on there. And remember that leaf paper we used earlier also from the mix-in, we just have cut a strip of that that we'll add right to the center here of a piece of peach cardstock. And let it be kind of a border right here on our tag, which will ground our main image, the snow globe. If we just put the snow globe on the tag by itself, it would maybe feel like it was just floating there. But by adding this little part and letting the tag overlap it, we're grounding that tag. We'll add a little foam tape because, of course, we want to give it some dimension. And we are going to stamp a little bit around the snow globe, but not so close that we need to wait to put this on with the foam tape. So we'll let that overlap our border a little bit. Add our reinforcer. I love our Close to My Heart adhesive because it's so easy to put on. It comes out of the case so smoothly, and things can be moved for a little while and then it becomes permanent, which is awesome. And we're going to bring in that same little kind of snowflake burst that we used before. Add that to our 1x1 block, and we'll stamp that in an odd number kind of around our snow globe. So maybe one right there, one up there, one down there. So there we are again with that visual triangle and odd numbers. We'll just add sparkles to those little snowflakes and call this tag done. Isn't that a great, simple tag and so cute? So imagine that you could do that with a white tag, and maybe this peach piece is a bright red, and this piece you emboss in gold. So you could get really creative with these very simple designs and make them whatever you want for the gifts you're wrapping. Now that we've seen all 5 tags, I'm just going to kind of lay the ones that we've made here for you to take a look at for just a second while I grab some more for you to see that are also using this great buildable tag set. So those are the ones we created today, and we did that in such a short amount of time. Let's take a look at a few ideas of tags and gifts from this same die cut set. How cute is that one? We created a tag like this where it had the frame over the top. Christmas calories don't count. Isn't that a cute tag? And wouldn't that be fun with maybe a gift card to a drink place attached to it? Then here's another pocket tag. And this is a great little tip. We mounted this tag, this pocket tag, onto a piece of cardstock, added a little adhesive to it. We actually added foam tape to give it even more dimension, and then you could add that to the top of your gift, and it wouldn't move. It would stay right where you wanted it to be. Now let's bring in this one. This is, again, non-traditional colors, but cute, right? We've layered a couple of tags and put them at an angle, so it's kind of an offset look, and then used our little reindeer guy and colored him with markers. A little bit of tone-on-tone stamping in the background. We learned about that today. This one I love. It was either this or socks. Isn't that fun? And this time we cut our pocket out of a plaid and added that little peekaboo of red right behind it. And then you could see we've just put a piece of cardstock in there to kind of simulate a gift card. What about an idea like this for maybe neighbor gifts or something? Just tie a cute tag onto a cookie cutter. And here's an example of one on a small gift. Best gift ever, if I say so myself. And then last but not least, I think I still have, yes, the example that I showed earlier of a tag tied onto a wrapped gift. Isn't that fun? So that's it, my friends. We are done with our tag examples, and I think that we gave you lots of fun examples to be able to use today as you are creating your own Christmas gifts or maybe even birthday gifts or Valentine gifts, and that we gave you some great ideas to use as you do.